When the power goes out in winter and your house drops to 30 degrees Fahrenheit, you're in real danger within a few hours. Your home, despite its walls, its insulation, its entire architecture, becomes a crisis zone the moment the grid fails. But right now, scattered across the Alaskan backcountry, people are sleeping soundly in tents made of fabric thinner than your jacket. The temperature outside? 20 below zero, sometimes 30, sometimes colder. They have no heater, no fire, no external heat source of any kind. How is this possible? Because they've rejected the single biggest myth about staying warm. They don't heat the shelter, they insulate the person. That difference between trying to warm a space and trying to trap the heat your body already makes is the difference between a fragile system that collapses when the power fails and a robust one that works in conditions that would kill most of us. It's the difference between depending on infrastructure and understanding physics. The modern heated home is essentially life support. It fights the cold with brute force, burning energy to maintain an artificial environment. The moment that energy stops, the system fails. But the winter tent in the Alaskan wilderness operates on entirely different principles. It's not a heated room. It's a carefully engineered shell around a highly efficient thermal system. And that system is you. Your body, right now, is generating about 100 watts of heat, continuously. Even while you sleep, your metabolism is a furnace that never shuts off. In normal conditions, you barely notice this. You're constantly shedding that heat into your environment. But in extreme cold, that 100 watts becomes the only thing standing between you and hypothermia. Every technique, every piece of gear, every decision made by someone sleeping at 20 below is built around one central question. How do we keep that heat from escaping? This is the paradigm shift that separates survival from disaster. Think about trying to heat a tent with a small stove. You're attempting to warm hundreds of cubic feet of air inside a thin nylon shell, while outside, the entire atmosphere is a massive heat sink at negative 20 degrees. The cold is infinite. Your fuel is not. You're fighting a battle you cannot win. Even if you could keep a fire going all night, which introduces carbon monoxide risks and requires someone to stay awake feeding it, the tent itself has no insulation. Heat pours through the fabric as fast as you generate it. Now think about a thermos bottle. A thermos doesn't create heat, it doesn't burn fuel, it just prevents the heat that's already inside from leaving. It uses a vacuum seal, reflective surfaces, and minimal contact points to eliminate conduction, convection, and radiation. The coffee inside stays hot for hours because the heat has nowhere to go. That's the model for surviving extreme cold. Your body is the hot coffee. Your sleep system is the vacuum-sealed wall. Instead of heating hundreds of cubic feet of tent interior, you create a tiny insulated environment measured in inches, a personal cocoon that captures your body heat and gives it nowhere to go. The tent itself is just a windbreak and a shield from snow. The real shelter is the layered system wrapped around your body. This is why experienced winter campers can sleep comfortably in conditions that would be lethal to someone in a large canvas tent with a stove. They've stopped fighting the cold and started working with the physics of heat retention. But heat doesn't just disappear into thin air. It leaves your body through specific, measurable pathways. 3 of them dominate in a winter camping scenario: conduction, convection, and radiation, and evaporation. Each one will kill you if ignored. Each one can be controlled if you understand it. The ground beneath you is a conductive heat sink. The air around you strips heat through convection and radiation. The moisture from your breath and body creates evaporative cooling and destroys insulation through frost buildup. Win all 3 of those battles, and you sleep warm at 20 below. Lose even one, and you're in trouble. The frozen ground is the most underestimated killer in winter camping. It doesn't feel like an immediate threat the way wind does. It doesn't announce itself like plummeting air temperature. But the Earth at 20 below is a massive thermal battery with infinite capacity to absorb heat, and every point where your body touches it becomes a highway for that heat to drain away. Conduction works fast, far faster than most people realize. Place your hand on a block of frozen ground and you'll feel the cold instantly. That's not the cold entering your hand, that's heat racing out of your body into the frozen mass beneath. The ground doesn't need to do anything, it just sits there, colder than you, and thermodynamics handles the rest. Heat flows from hot to cold, always. The only question is how fast. If you lie directly on frozen earth, even inside a sleeping bag, you'll be hypothermic in hours. Why? Because your body weight compresses the insulation beneath you. All those tiny air pockets in the sleeping bag's fill, the very thing that's supposed to trap warmth, get crushed flat. What's left is a thin layer of fabric between you and a heat sink that never warms up, never gets saturated, never stops pulling heat out of your core. This is why your sleep system doesn't start with your sleeping bag. It starts underneath you. The foundation is a closed-cell foam pad. This pad is deceptively simple, just dense foam, waterproof, nearly indestructible. You can't pop it, you can't soak it, you can roll it, sit on it, kneel on it, and it will perform exactly the same every single time. Its job is singular: create a physical barrier between your body and the ground that conducts as little heat as possible. Foam works because it's full of tiny sealed air bubbles. Air is one of the best insulators available, and when it's trapped in small pockets that prevent convection, it stops conductive heat transfer almost completely. The closed cell structure means water can't infiltrate and destroy those air pockets. This pad will work the same at -40 as it does at +40. But foam alone isn't enough for deep cold. The second layer is an insulated inflatable pad, and this is where the system gets serious. Modern inflatable pads designed for winter use are filled with baffles and reflective materials that create thick sections of trapped air. This isn't about comfort, though that's a side benefit. This is about building enough thermal resistance to stop the ground from winning. The measure of that resistance is called R value. It's a standardized number used in construction and gear manufacturing. The higher the R value, the better the insulation. For winter camping at 20 below, you need a combined R value of at least 5, preferably closer to 6 or 7. The two-pad system, foam on the bottom, inflatable on top, gives you that. The foam provides a puncture-proof base layer that will never fail. The inflatable provides the thickness and dead air space that drives the R value high enough to matter. Stack them, and you've built a platform that turns the frozen ground into a non-issue. The order matters. Foam goes against the ground because it's bomb-proof. Inflatable goes on top because it's vulnerable to sharp ice, frozen debris, and anything else hidden under the snow. If the inflatable gets punctured, you still have the foam. If you only brought the inflatable and it fails, you're in serious trouble. This redundancy is how polar expeditions and high-altitude mountaineers approach the problem. They don't trust a single piece of gear to handle the most relentless source of heat loss. They build layers with different strengths so that if one fails, the system still functions. And it works. With the right pad system, you can lie on snow at -30 and feel no cold from below. The ground is still there, still frozen, still trying to pull heat out of you. But the barrier you've created is good enough that conduction becomes irrelevant. Your body heat stays in your body. The battle with the earth is won before you even get into your sleeping bag. Every breath you take releases a small cloud of warm, saturated air into the tent. Doesn't sound like much, but over the course of an 8-hour night, your lungs expel roughly a liter of water in vapor form. That moisture has to go somewhere. In a sealed tent at 20 below, it goes everywhere. It hits the cold fabric of the tent walls and flash freezes into frost. It condenses on any exposed gear. It works its way into the insulation of your sleeping bag if you haven't used a vapor barrier. By morning, the entire interior of the tent can be coated in a fine layer of ice crystals. Touch the tent wall, and you trigger a small indoor snowstorm. This isn't just annoying, it's dangerous. When the sun rises and warms the tent even slightly, or when your body heat raises the interior temperature a few degrees, that frost melts. Now you have water dripping from the ceiling onto your bag, your clothes, your gear. You've created rain inside your shelter. Everything you need to stay dry, the very thing that keeps the insulation working, gets wet. The solution is completely counterintuitive if you're thinking like someone in a heated house. You have to open the tent, in the middle of the night, at 20 below zero. Ventilation is not optional. It's as critical as the sleeping bag itself. Most four-season tents have vents built into the roof and adjustable openings near the door. Those vents need to be open, even when it's -20 outside. You crack the door slightly if needed. The goal is to create airflow, a path for the humid air you're exhaling to escape before it freezes on every surface. This feels wrong. Every instinct says to seal the tent, trap the heat, keep the cold out. But there is no heat to trap. The tent itself is nearly the same temperature as the outside air. You're not heating the tent. You never were. The warmth is in your sleeping bag, and a few degrees of air temperature difference in the tent interior means nothing compared to the catastrophic failure that comes from moisture accumulation. The small amount of warmth lost through ventilation is irrelevant. What matters is keeping the air inside dry enough that your gear stays functional. This is where winter camping completely inverts the logic of a modern home. We spend enormous effort sealing houses, caulking windows, weather stripping doors, eliminating every draft. We do this because we're trying to keep heated air inside. But in a winter tent, a sealed environment is a death trap. The moisture you produce becomes the enemy, and the only way to fight it is to let it leave. Experienced cold weather campers will even leave a small gap at the tent door overnight, accepting the tiny intrusion of cold air because they know the alternative is waking up in a tent that's becoming wetter and less functional by the hour. They'll position the vents to create a convection current, cold air in low, warm, humid air out high, so the exchange happens passively while they sleep. This kind of moisture management doesn't exist in grid-dependent living. Your furnace or heater warms the air enough that humidity stays in vapor form and gets cycled out by your HVAC system, or it just doesn't matter because you can always turn up the heat. But in the tent, you have no such buffer. Physics is immediate, moisture freezes, insulation fails, and the system collapses unless you've designed airflow into the plan from the start. It's a different kind of engineering, not about brute force or energy input, but about understanding the behavior of water vapor in extreme cold and building a strategy around it. The tent becomes a managed environment where every decision, vent position, door gap, even where you place wet gloves to dry, is part of keeping the entire system in equilibrium. Manage the moisture and you stay dry. Stay dry and your insulation works. Your insulation works and your body heat is enough. The gear handles physics. But your body is what generates the heat the gear protects. If the furnace goes out, the best insulation in the world won't save you. This means the system has a fuel requirement. Before you zip into that sleeping bag, you need to load your metabolism with slow-burning calories that will keep your core temperature stable through the coldest part of the night, the hours between midnight and dawn when your body's basal metabolic rate naturally drops. Dinner in a winter camp isn't just a meal. It's the act of stoking the furnace for an 8-hour burn. Experienced cold campers eat foods high in fats and protein right before bed. Cheese, nuts, butter, salami, dense calories that digest slowly and release energy over hours instead of minutes. Some will drink hot cocoa made with whole milk and extra butter stirred in. It sounds excessive until you understand what's happening. Your body will metabolize that fat through the night, and the heat generated by that process is what keeps you warm. Carbohydrates burn fast. They give you a spike of energy, and then they're gone. Fats burn slow and steady. In extreme cold, you want the slow burn. Then there are the logistics that don't make it into glossy photos of winter camping, but matter just as much as the gear. The pee bottle. Middle of the night, 20 below outside, you're warm in your bag and your bladder is full. If you get up, unzip the tent, go outside, and relieve yourself in the snow, you've just triggered a metabolic crisis. Your body has to burn a massive number of calories to rewarm itself after that exposure. You may not fall back asleep for an hour. You've broken the thermal equilibrium the whole system depends on. The solution is universal among people who do this seriously. A wide-mouth bottle with a screw-on cap, clearly marked so there's no chance of confusion in the dark. You stay in your bag, you stay warm. The system never gets disrupted. It's not glamorous, but neither is frostbite. Same logic applies to everything else that can't tolerate cold. Your water bottles will freeze solid unless they're inside the sleeping bag with you. Batteries die in extreme cold. Your headlamp, GPS, phone, all of it stops working. So those come into the bag too. The stuff sack with tomorrow's dry socks goes in near your feet where your body heat will keep them warm for morning. Your insulated cocoon isn't just your shelter. It's the only warm zone in your entire world. Everything critical to survival has to live there with you. This is the operational reality that makes the system work. You can have perfect gear and perfect knowledge of vapor barriers and R values. But if you don't eat enough, if you let yourself get chilled during the night, if you allow your water to freeze, the system degrades. Survival in extreme cold isn't one technique. It's a sequence of small, disciplined decisions that compound into a functioning whole. The sleeping bag is not a blanket. It's not bedding. It's a piece of life support equipment engineered to trap the 100 watts of heat your body generates and keep it from dissipating into air cold enough to freeze exposed skin in minutes. Every element of the system, the fill, the shell, the layers you wear inside it, exists to create and maintain dead airspace. Because air, when it's truly still, is an almost perfect insulator. The challenge is keeping it still. Start with what you wear inside the bag. This isn't intuitive for most people. The instinct is to climb in wearing whatever kept you warm during the day. That instinct will make you cold. Daytime clothes contain sweat. Even if they don't feel wet, they've absorbed moisture from your body over hours of activity. That moisture will chill you the moment you stop moving. In extreme cold, it may freeze. You need dedicated sleep clothes, a dry base layer in merino wool or synthetic fabric that wicks moisture away from skin, and potentially a fleece mid-layer if temperatures push past -20. Thick wool socks. Everything dry, everything clean. Cotton is forbidden. Cotton absorbs water, loses all insulating ability when wet, and takes forever to dry. There's a reason the phrase "cotton kills" is repeated in every wilderness course. Now the bag itself. That temperature rating printed on the stuff sack, the one that says -20 or -40, is not a comfort rating, it's a survival rating. It represents the temperature at which the bag will likely prevent you from dying of hypothermia if you're wearing layers and using a good pad. It does not mean you'll sleep well. It doesn't even mean you'll sleep warm. For actual comfort, you need a bag rated at least 10 to 20 degrees colder than the lowest temperature you expect. If you're camping at -20, you want a bag rated to -30 or lower. This buffer accounts for individual metabolism differences, for nights when you're tired or underfed, for the reality that gear performance degrades slightly over time. The insulation inside that bag is either down or synthetic, and the choice matters. Down, the fluffy underfeathers of ducks or geese, provides the best warmth-to-weight ratio of any insulation. It compresses small, lofts beautifully, and when it's dry and fully fluffed, it creates an astounding amount of dead airspace for very little weight. High-quality down can maintain loft night after night in brutally cold conditions, but down has a fatal weakness: water. When down gets wet, the feathers clump together, the air pockets collapse, and insulation value drops catastrophically. In wet coastal cold or during multi-day trips where moisture management becomes difficult, this is a real risk. Synthetic insulation, typically polyester fibers, doesn't insulate quite as well per ounce, and it's bulkier to pack. But it retains warmth even when damp, it dries faster, and it costs less. For extended trips in extreme cold where moisture accumulation is inevitable, synthetic has advantages. Either way, what matters is loft. Loft is the thickness of the insulation layer when it's fully expanded. More loft means more trapped air, which means more insulation. A bag that's been compressed in a stuff sack needs time to fully loft before you get in. Experienced campers pull their bags out of their packs an hour before bed and let them expand completely. Then there's the advanced technique, the one that separates casual winter campers from people doing serious multi-day expeditions in deep cold, the vapor barrier liner. This is deeply counterintuitive. A vapor barrier liner, a VBL, is a non-breathable waterproof layer that goes inside your sleeping bag, against your body. You're deliberately trapping your own moisture against your skin. Why would you do this? Because over the course of a night, your body releases a surprising amount of water vapor through respiration and perspiration. In a standard setup, that moisture travels outward through your clothing and into your sleeping bag's insulation. In extreme cold, it doesn't evaporate, it freezes. Ice crystals form throughout the bag's fill, and every night, more moisture accumulates. The bag gets heavier, its loft degrades, its ability to insulate drops. After several nights, a down bag in the Arctic can lose 30% of its insulating value. At that point, the system fails. A vapor barrier stops this. The moisture stays inside the liner against your body and your base layers. You wake up slightly damp. It's uncomfortable for the first few minutes, but your sleeping bag stays completely dry. Its loft remains perfect. Night after night, it performs exactly as designed. The vapor barrier isn't trapping cold, it's trapping moisture before that moisture can destroy your primary insulation. For a single overnight trip, it's optional. For a week-long expedition at -30, it's how you survive. This entire cocoon, dry sleep clothes, a properly rated bag with full loft, potentially a VBL, is your actual shelter. The tent is just a shell to keep wind and snow off the system. Everything that matters happens in the 18 inches of engineered airspace wrapped around your body, where your 100-watt metabolism has nowhere to go but into keeping you alive. The person in the dark house during a winter blackout is a victim of failed infrastructure. They're cold because an external system they depend on has stopped, but the person in the tent at -20 is the master of their own system. They've created survivable warmth using nothing but body heat and physics. True resilience isn't about having more power, it's about needing less.